My name's Simone. I grew up in the Northwest Bronx and I left the area to go to college. And I met some people who call themselves Chester residents concerned for quality living. And they're people who have been fighting for decades to prevent their family and loved ones from being used as a dumping ground. You know, just that. So when I came back home, I had to get serious and think, what else is going on that I don't know about?
I was like, I couldn't breathe, and she had to call the ambulance. And they came and they picked me up and they took me to the hospital.
Here in the South Bronx, Ileana is not alone. Gina, her mother, is well aware that is not a coincidence.
Yeah, and when you look at the statistics, you can see how these are the asthma hospitalization rates from children aged 0 to 14 per borough. You can see that kids in the Bronx are 30% more likely to have an asthma attack so bad they need to go to the hospital. And the statistics for all ages, death rates, these are the rates per 100,000 by borough. That's people that have asthma attacks so bad they cannot keep breathing. The number of people whose breath are taken away forever in the Bronx are double that of every other borough. It's just unacceptable. And
they're breaking up, which
people
is
aren't
construction
accepting
debris.
it.
This going into the air.
Grassroots organizations like South Bronx Unite and the Point CDC have been sounding the alarm for years.
One child having asthma unnecessarily in our neighborhood is too many.
This advocacy has actually been working in a lot of different ways. I've been going to a farmers market and community event called the James Baldwin Outdoor Learning Center. Some of us at the James Baldwin Outdoor Learning Center got asked to promote an MTA new rollout of zero emissions buses. If you're like me and hear zero emissions and cannot understand how that could be possible, I want to pass it over to a friend that I met at James Baldwin Outdoor Learning Center, Patricia.
Thanks, Simone. So I'm Patricia, an intern at the James Baldwin Outdoor Learning Center, and I'm currently studying environmental engineering. And as I said before, there's these types of buses that have zero emissions, and they're called hydrogen fuel cell buses. But how is this different from the vehicles that we know today? Well, let's take a regular gas combustion engine. We all know that cars tend to be harmful for our environment, and this is because of the oil use as well as carbon dioxide emissions that come out. To convert linear motion to rotational motion, a piston moves up and down due to combustion. Usually as the piston moves down, fuel and air flows into the chamber. When the piston moves back up, this compression and spark ignites the fuel mixture and creates a mini explosion. This creates pressure to move the piston back down, and thus the cycle continues. However, these engines produce over 15% of the total carbon emissions, and the energy created from this combustion is lost as heat, making it only 16 to 25% efficient. This is why many scientists are developing hydrogen fuel cells, which run on hydrogen and oxygen. To understand how the hydrogen fuel cell works, it's important to know how particles interact with each other. Everything consists of particles and molecules that have either a positive, neutral, or negative charge. This means that depending on something's charge, it will determine how it interacts with the world. So let's focus on the positive and negative charges. One thing about these charges is that they will repel away from something that has the same charge as them. For example, if we have two positive charges or two negative charges next to each other, they will naturally want to separate in different directions. Conversely, a single positive and a single negative charge, or proton or electron, will attract each other and come together. This is because they are opposite charges. In a hydrogen fuel cell, we have a negatively charged electrode, also known as the anode, and a positively charged electrode, also known as the cathode. In between them, we have an electrolyte called the proton exchange membrane, or PEM for short, which allows protons to pass through. One way to look at this is that the fuel cell is like a grilled cheese sandwich, where the electrodes are the bread and the electrolyte is the cheese. So bread, cheese, bread, or anode, electrolyte, cathode. To start off, we need a tank full of hydrogen to pass over the anode, where a catalyst, usually platinum, will split the hydrogen atom into electron and proton. These positively charged hydrogen ions flow through the proton exchange membrane and join with the cathode. The electrons also want to join the cathode because, like mentioned before, negative charges will want to come together with positive charges. However, these electrons cannot go through the PEM and instead leave the fuel cell into the circuit that powers the motor, which turn the wheels and make the vehicle move. So as long as there are electrons escaping the fuel cell and into the circuit, the wheels will keep turning. Then, the electron meets the cathode and oxygen from the air flows over the area. The positive hydrogen ions, electrons, and oxygen forms water that is released as vapor or steam. The crazy part is water is the only emission. To reiterate, we just need hydrogen and oxygen to power the fuel cell, and what we get is a powered bus and water. This process is known as reverse electrolysis. These types of buses are going to be a game changer in the Bronx, where poor air quality is disproportionately an issue compared to the rest of New York City. As the MTA and KTC continues with the rollout plan, we hope to see a decline in air pollution in a place that's filled with culture and rich history. Thank you.